All right, so we're back. Hey, it's the last day of lecture. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be finishing chapter 7. It's about half of the chapter. I think we have 13 slides, something like that. So where we're picking up is we had talked about soil last time, and that leads us into, and this is about food, right, this chapter, so that leads us into agriculture. And so what does agriculture depend on? If you break it down into the various categories of needs for producing food through agriculture, we have five things we're going to talk about. You have to have enough water. You have to have fertilizer. Plants need water. They need small amounts of inorganic substances, and that's what is in fertilizer. So remember, we did a lab where we were looking at nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Those are the three categories. And so when you buy fertilizer and you get a 6-12-12 or 20-20-20 fertilizer, and you say, well, what are those numbers? It's the relative amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And depending on what your soil needs, remember the soil test, depending on what your soil needs, you can buy fertilizer that has different amounts of each of those nutrients. All right, so we have water, we have fertilizer, sunshine. You can't do anything about that. So you have to be someplace where there is sun. Energy and proper crops. I've changed the order on your first slide. I have it water, nutrients, favorable climate, the crop variety, and then at the end, energy. I flipped them back around because as we go through our notes, we're going to cover them in this order right here. So first off, you have to have enough rain. But even if you look at the climate and you say, we have enough rain in each of the months for whatever crop you're going to produce, the problem is there's something called limits. If you go too long before rain, even if you have enough rain on average, if you go too long and your plants have all dried up, they're dead. So how do you address that problem? Irrigation. Irrigation can ensure that the water comes at the proper time and the proper amount. Now, the problem you have, of course, is that farmers, they're not rich. Don't go into farming if you want to become rich, because you won't. Farmers aren't rich, and so oftentimes one of the problems they have is they have old equipment, and they don't have the technology to really put the water on in an efficient manner. So sometimes if irrigation is poorly managed, what can happen? You can have too much water. And as you know, soil requires air because of cellular respiration. So you need water for photosynthesis, but you also need air. So you can't just have the soil covered in water. So you can have too much water and waterlogged soil, and that will kill your crops. Or if you're in a really hot climate, the evaporation will leave the minerals that are present in the water in your soil, and it can make the soil, it can build up the salts in the soil to the point that plants won't grow there. So irrigation is important, but it has to be properly managed. Inorganic fertilizer. That fertilizer I was talking about that you go to Lowe's or Home Depot to buy, with those numbers, it's not from animal poop. You know, that's an organic source of fertilizer. No, it's inorganic fertilizer. It's made, the nitrogen is taken from the atmosphere. Phosphorus is dug out of the ground in some place like Florida, and so on. So it's synthetic fertilizer. It's not organic, and that's the norm for agriculture. So we had water and fertilizer, sunshine. You can't do anything about that, so we just keep on going. that brings us to energy. Farming uses huge amounts of energy. And water, by the way, the single largest, globally, the single largest consumer of water is water for agriculture. So that is a major user of water, and a major consumer of energy is agriculture. AG stands for agriculture. 16% of the energy globally is used in agriculture. And if you break it down, we've said the fertilizers that are used are synthetic. Running your tractor, you use oil, right? So we can relate this energy use to barrels of oil. And a hectare is 2.5 acres, so you have a feel for what we're talking about. 1 hectare of corn uses 5 barrels of oil to create it in modern agriculture. Where is the usage? About a third of the usage is in the fertilizer, a third is to run the equipment, and a third is the irrigation. Okay, so we're going to then talk about other problems related with crops, and then we'll come back to the proper crop. Okay?